live from the internet. It's
Friday
Friday.
Live.
Excited to be here today in the company of Matthias, who is joining us from Digitips. Matthias has extensive experience in communication. He was a journalist. He worked in public affairs. He worked across different fields of communication with leading global agencies, and he has his own boutique agency. Great to have you on the show, Matthias. I want to go straight to the topical question that everybody's discussing, which is about Ukraine and the social media conversation there. We've been talking to many of our guests about this, and I just want to ask you one question about disinformation, because what we've been saying and discussing with a lot of our guests is that Ukraine is doing exceptionally well with Zelensky with their use of social media. But what we're not seeing is that apparently there are kind of a lot of quite successful efforts to engage outside of the Western bubble. What are your thoughts on how that conversation is going and how where you think it's heading?
Well, you're absolutely right. For us, we're all behind Ukraine, all following Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, who is one of the most followed leaders now on the different social media platforms. And why? Because he's doing it himself. He is basically, he knows how to hold the camera. He knows how to take a selfie, a video selfie. Yesterday, he was showing off the Vishnyanka, the traditional Ukrainian embroidery shirt. And it's just, it's him, and I really like that. He's the first, the first digital soldier that Ukraine has. And he has amassed a massive following on Instagram, on Facebook, on Telegram. He's the most followed world leader on Telegram, but also on Twitter, he's doing quite well. And we all, think, wow, with such kind of communications, because it's not only him, it's also the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. It's a whole, and even the Minister of Digital Transformation, who really helped mobilize armies of followers. So we have the impression that Ukraine can only really win this contest. I mean, they definitely, in our point of view, they have won the the information war, I would say. But what we don't realize is there is a whole kind of disinfo operation going on, which doesn't target Western Europe, which doesn't target us, which we don't really see, but it is actually targeting countries in Africa, countries in Asia, where basically there are trolls really kind of pushing the Russian narrative that NATO is encircling Russia, that Russia had to defend itself, etc. So this is I find this quite interesting, and how it is basically using social media channels. Obviously, Twitter, you have trolls. Not necessarily bots, robots. These are real people who are amplifying this kind of narrative in other countries. So there have been studies about that, looking at those networks. But very often, this is the difficult thing. These are real people spreading that information. So it's very difficult. It's almost impossible for any social network to take them down, because they are not, as I said, robots. So not kind of botnets. Bot networks which spread fake news. So this is quite interesting. You can also see it. I recently saw the here in Geneva, the Swiss television, whenever they post a story on Facebook about Ukraine, they get hundreds of comments, mainly from Africa, and really pushing the Russian narrative.
That's fascinating, and I think it's really important to constantly remind ourselves that we're in a bubble, and our perception is distorted by what we already were watching before, so it reinforces our preconceptions. But of course, what a lot of people are saying is that the medium is the message, and as you mentioned, Zelensky is doing a pretty impressive job. You mentioned a lot of channels. You didn't mention TikTok, and two things I want to come back to you, because you did a ranking of EU leaders and their performance. But does Zelensky have a TikTok channel? And if not, why not? And Lira wants to build on that after this.
Well, it's interesting. I do think he has a channel. It's but it's run by his team, Commander Zelensky. This was a team. It's the Z team actually, which is he used 3 years ago during his election campaign. So they do have a TikTok presence. They do share videos from Zelensky, but he personally is not on TikTok yet. Actually, very few world leaders are on TikTok, and but TikTok, I think, is a really interesting social media network, because it is not a place where you just, like on YouTube or Instagram, you post your video and that's it, hoping to get likes and comments and shares. TikTok is really, you need to engage your audience, either with a funny dance, or by singing, mimicking, etc., or really kind of engaging them. You want them to, like on a hashtag challenge, you want them to remix your video and basically bring it further to their audience. So this is a really different concept, and also the algorithm is totally different. TikTok is the only social network where when you sign up, you don't even have to follow anyone. You're already being served the first videos, and the TikTok algorithm will see which videos you react to and then serve you more of the same. So TikTok is very interesting also in the context of Ukraine, because we were seeing the buildup of Russian troops around Ukraine on TikTok, because Russian TikTok is big in Russia, and Russian TikTok users were basically filming military equipment going through different towns in Russia. So it was really interesting to see that build up right on the platform. Well, since the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, these kind of they have gone silent. TikTok is no longer allowing uploads from Russia, and Russian users cannot see the TikTok. So there's a splintering of the internet there, at least of TikTok. They're really in their own bubble. But so this is quite interesting. But we see TikTok today used by Ukrainian soldiers in the field. They have been trained how to use social media. They're not revealing their location, but they do reveal some really interesting footage, and you can find it on TikTok. So this is, I think, is very interesting. And for everyone who thinks, you have to dance on TikTok, no, you don't. You can be very, very serious.
Should everyone then join TikTok? Do you think it's a good platform for all ages to
I think it's absolutely the platform you should join, and also leaders should join, because it's the sixth most, in the rankings. I think it's in the top 6 most used social media channels. And if you want to reach that younger audience, that teenage audience, which is not yet on Instagram, or might also be on Instagram, or maybe on Snapchat, but they are on TikTok. So I think this is really kind of key, and that's why Boris Johnson decided to join TikTok just last week. It was funny to see the UK Prime Minister joining the platform, because he was, in his usual style, he said, "Hello, everyone. This is Boris speaking, and I'm inaugurating the TikTok site." So he was talking about the TikTok platform, the social media network, as a website, promising behind-the-scenes videos, etc., but saying that he wouldn't dance. But I think you really have to open up on the platform and understand it. What Downing Street does. It's quite interesting. The channel is run by his team and not necessarily by him personally, but it is okay to do short pieces to camera, short statements. The French president has been on TikTok now for 2 years exactly, obviously in view of this year's election, to reach that younger audience, when they turned 18, so they would vote for him. So most leaders are really joining TikTok during election campaigns. And Macron is doing very often pieces to camera, but he does it himself. It comes across as very personal. He's holding the phone himself. This is where he announced that he was confining after having contracted COVID. So I think it is really interesting. Also, on TikTok, you have these hashtag, not only challenges, but also hashtags such as #EduTalk, which is kind of educational TikTok. Where so there are different use cases for TikTok. I think it's a brilliant network. I love the way how you can easily edit. My daughter, she's 12, she can do better edits than I do. So I'm absolutely smitten by TikTok.
Does it matter that it's a Chinese app, or it doesn't matter at all?
Look, for me, it doesn't matter. It seems to matter for the Americans, but for us, does it ever matter that most of the social media platforms are US owned? No, I mean, if you are, afraid of Chinese spying, snooping on your phones, I mean, for world leaders, for foreign ministries, I would suggest, any public figure to use what we call a burner phone, a phone which you only use for certain platforms where you don't, which is not linked to your entire digital infrastructure. So, look, if you're concerned about that, I know, for example, the former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was also on all social media platforms, including TikTok. I once asked him if he was posting himself, and he basically replied, "I know the power of social media. I know the power of digital media. I don't have a mobile phone." So, this is the kind of, precautions you should take, as a leader. So
but
I
you
think,
don't see a difference between a democracy like the United States and
oh, I absolutely do.
like China. You don't. That's why I feel more comfortable using American apps over.
But I am not sure. I don't think. For the moment, I don't see any censorship on TikTok as we see on the Chinese version, which is available in China, which is Douyin. So Douyin is totally, is available all over China. It's exactly the same thing as TikTok, but it's basically censored. The TikTok we have here, I don't see, is not censored. There's no involvement by the Chinese government, that you cannot post videos about Tibet or Taiwan. So, for the moment, I think that doesn't happen. So, it is a free speech platform, just as Twitter is, Facebook, and others.
Free, and Twitter's going to be more. I just wanted to share two comments that came in. And Nico Charlotte says, "Long live TikTok." So he apparently loves the platform. And Iki Ada says, "I think these short videos make us much less patient. We now want everything fast and short, and success needs
the opposite thing. Don't worry."
Yes,
you have to edit.
I understand what she's saying. Like everything. So from already, this kind of show that we're doing here on Friday Live is already very long for social media, isn't it? But we can still snip it up and put it on TikTok and also different places. What is your feeling about this? Do you agree with this criticism on TikTok?
Look, I think we have the way how we consume snippets started with MTV videos. They're short, and that's how it's. And then on social media, it went to we even saw Vine, where the videos were limited to 6 seconds, which I love, because you can tell a story in 6 seconds. You cannot do a long interview. But the other thing is, on TikTok has now introduced longer form videos. So it started with 20 or 30 seconds, now then a minute, started with a minute, then 3, and now you can upload 10-minute long videos. So it is just the key difference with YouTube is TikTok is really kind of the vertical video platform compared to YouTube, which is still kind of the horizontal video platform. And you have to decide, which format shall we film? Where do we want to distribute? Will it be on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and TikTok? They are all, going for vertical is the new normal, whether we like it or not, because people are just too lazy to turn their phones.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we're seeing is a transformation of the language of storytelling, where people can do, exceptionally good, very short stories. And of course, the thing that, although you have this shortening of the attention span, you also have pretty long videos, long conversations on channels like Clubhouse. So I think it's a fragmentation, not driving everyone to the same thing, because we also have very long podcasts, which go on for 2 hours sometimes. So I don't think it's necessarily one type of thing. And interesting comment you made about leaders without mobile phones. We worked with Jean-Claude Juncker, who also did not have a smartphone. Maybe I'm not sure it was out of conviction or just out of just not wanting to use a smartphone. Now, you've been looking at world leaders, especially EU leaders, and you've ranked them across their different channels. Now, from what you said, Emmanuel Macron is the one who's basically using all the channels the most successfully across different channels. So who stands out for doing this in a different and creative way, according to you? And who can we learn from looking at those leaders on social media?
So I did several, on May 1st, I gathered the data from the different social networks, just to have one, starting point, because they're, kind of, just to give you an idea, I'm tracking 1,150 Twitter accounts of heads of state, heads of government, personal and institutional, plus the foreign ministers. So I did a deep dive on the EU leaders, and, there Macron comes out on top on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also, on TikTok. His team just really understands it. The interplay between, if you post something on TikTok and you post it on Instagram, I think their communication is really great, and they've honed it for the past, not only with Macron, but even, before Macron, with Hollande, and also under Sarkozy, the Élysée Palace, the team, I think they're doing a really, really good job in terms of, making, showing us how Macron runs this country. What is interesting, under Macron, the Emmanuel Macron account became the main channel of communications under Hollande. Before, it was the Élysée Palace, so the institutional account, and not his personal account. So I think this is quite indicative. Maybe that helped him get re-elected this year. But so, looking at other European leaders now who are doing a good job, Polish President Andrzej Duda, and also the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, very good. Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, I like him because very often he sits down and does, these Facebook, kind of press conferences, if you want, with his followers, which is something that I think more of them should do, kind of, really going out. And there are examples now outside of the EU. Dmytro Kuleba, the Ukrainian foreign minister, he not only since the start of the war, he has been for the past years. He did Facebook Lives in Ukrainian, just sitting in front of his laptop and answering questions that came in, doing a little, explaining what he was doing. So I think this kind of interaction is really interesting. And obviously, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, there's the Jacinda mania, because she kind of goes after hours, sits at home on her couch. She's put her child to bed and will just do a little either an Instagram Live or a Facebook Live, and explaining the latest government decisions, just in a different format than in the official press conference, which she also does. So it's kind of it's really interesting. So for me, there's a new generation of leaders that is emerging, who really understand how to use social media personally. And this is quite interesting. And they're all, okay, it's not an age issue, but I'm 58, but they're all in their early 40s. So they kind of understand how social media works. And I think we will see many more of these young tech-savvy leaders who will take matters into their own hands, and just talk to us, talk to their audiences differently, and on the different platforms, without making a fool out of themselves.
And looking at the EU and the Commission, I mean, you put Ursula von der Leyen. Do you think she and her team are doing a good job? And do you think EU institutions are how do they compare with the high performers as far as social media is concerned?
So kind of the von der Leyen, she is really. I think her team is very strong, but it is very official. It is always Ursula standing in front of in the Parliament. It's very official. It doesn't really come across as personal. But the team is doing a great job. The European External Action Service, and also Charles Michel from the EU Council. I added them into this ranking. I think they're doing a good job. What I am missing is kind of how do you communicate the EU on social media? We know because we know there's so many different parties. The Commission, the Council, the Parliament. So I am dreaming of a single EU Twitter account @EU, and it is actually available. If anyone in Brussels is listening, and has the power to request this from Twitter, because Twitter will easily hand it over. If and you could actually make one Twitter account. It doesn't have to be in 23 languages, but you can actually make it very, very visual, and really kind of use it as your country, as Europe's account. Ukraine has @Ukraine, and the handle is basically tweeting memes, and has always tweeted memes, very often against Russia, and @Russia, because the Russian foreign ministry also has the country name, replied. So this is quite interesting. So I wish the EU would set up this account. So this is the kind of how I would see. It's not concentrating the EU communication in one Twitter account, not that, but really kind of having a flagship account that everybody can be very proud of, and that really represents the 450 million Europeans.
I think that's an interesting challenge. I mean, whether you can find one account that can communicate really on behalf of this community. I think the individual story is really critical. And with Ursula von der Leyen, she's actually got a very interesting personal story. She actually has her own room in the Berlaymont and is staying there. And she's a extremely hardworking person. So I think actually getting closer to her as a person, which I, for the people I know, say that she's very energetic, she's very driven. And so I think we could get a lot more of that, because we're getting a very, as you said, very institutional view, which I don't think, is very easy to consume. I think it's too formal and a bit too rigid for what, works with the audience. So just as a closing question, what is your kind of most important advice for communicators entering, hopefully, this post-COVID era? Is it time for them to go on every channels, or do they have to just commit to TikTok? What's the thing you would say to your, to the people that are trying to figure this out, don't quite know what to do?
Number one is, do it yourself. At least understand what the team is doing, and maybe do a cameo appearance on the Snapchat channel, for example. Kind of understand the different channels. I'm saying be on every single channel. At least register your name, your own name, or your organization's name, because else, if you don't do that early on, you will never get it back. So this is very important. And then don't broadcast, but kind of create a conversation. What I'm really missing is when you have a world leader who asks a question, you can actually search for it on Twitter. Just to I have on the Digitives Twitter account a number of lists, and also world leaders and ministers and so on. You can actually search how many world leaders have, with Twitter's advanced search in the list, how many leaders have used a question mark, and asking for help. Well, to be very frank with you, very, very few. So I would love them to go back to creating a conversation and not being afraid to do a live or a Twitter Q&A. Twitter Q&A are brilliant compared to a press conference. In the press conference, you never know what question will come from left field, from the back of the room. With Twitter Q&As, you will get the questions inviting, and you have time to answer them. So I think it's really kind of take it personally. Do a Zelensky, basically, take matters in your own hand. I think this. And one last thing is, the number of followers is irrelevant. I know I've created these rankings, who's the most followed, etc. But you know what? If you have 200, 2,000, 20,000, or 200,000, or 2 million followers, it really depends on that community that you have. And Twitter has rolled out new tools, to segment your community, your followers, into communities, and that they're also testing out circles. Circles is something, unfortunately, I have not been admitted to any circle. It is basically a private group, very much like a direct message group where you can add 75 people. It's a private group with up to 250 users. They're trialing lists. So we'll see. So this is what I find key when I look at my followers. I know exactly, who are the ones, where my community is, and, how we're interacting. And there's probably, 20, 30, 50 people, but, I know them. I've met them through Twitter. and I send them private messages, and you know, we're having a conversation. So the number of followers is really irrelevant.
Fantastic. I think that's excellent advice. Completely agree with you. It's about the quality of the followers and the quality of the conversation, not the numbers. Indeed, you have to take it personally. Even if your team runs your content, you still need to own it and direct it. And I guess at the end of the day, it's about learning and trying new things and experimenting as you move along. So I think that's all we have time for, but thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your insights, and have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you online. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on Friday Live. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot.